What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, we are here talking about Survivor Season 33, Millennials versus Gen X, Episode 4. Today, it is Saturday, and we are back coming at you from the wonderful room of dorms. So, my name is Rachel.
Alyssa, and this week's episode was much better, than last week's. So, some stuff went down. Rachel?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this season has a lot of juxtapositions in the way, editing is being done. So last episode we saw, after Tribal, there was fighting between, Zeke and Hannah. And then this time we sort of see the same kind of fighting happening between Jessica and then Brett and Chris, which I thought was really interesting. The two guys didn't want to talk to Jessica, and then Chris has a confessional talking about how he wants to rage and wants to throw the rice in the fire, which maybe shows a different side of Chris that we haven't seen yet. So maybe he has some anger issues that'll come out next week or in the future, right before he gets voted out.
I thought it was interesting because the Millennials kind of forced each other to talk almost. Hannah kept telling Zeke, no, we have to talk now, no, we have to talk now. And I feel like that's kind of the style of conflict resolution that we've been taught. We've been told you always have to solve your problems by saying sorry and not stopping saying sorry until someone accepts your apology. So I think that was kind of interesting to see how they dealt with their conflict almost. So
yeah, and I don't know, also, so because of last week's voting, blindsiding Paul, now everyone feels like Jessica was the mastermind behind that, and now that she is sort of, because she flipped on the majority alliance, she is now on the outs, and the boys really dislike her. So it's the old people, I guess, okay, the Gen X people are really playing emotionally, I feel like. From the votes that they voted out of the people that went home so far, it seems like they voted out the annoying person, the person they thought was the leader, and now they want to vote out Jessica because she flipped on them and they think she betrayed her. So it's sort of, I don't know, less strategy, but more I don't like this person anymore. I don't want to hang out with them. I want them off of our island.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because people see Millennials, I feel as the more emotional of the two groups, and the Gen Xers is the steadfast or whatever. So I thought that it was interesting to see, like you said, that they were all voting very emotionally, whereas the vote out for the Millennials was a lot more strategic and thinking ahead to what might happen post-merge and stuff like that.
Yeah, and even though we only saw one vote out from Millennials so far, I feel I don't know, just in general, even though Millennials, we do see on screen that they're more fun to watch, they're more carefree, they're showman's is good, let's go skinny dipping. But when it comes time to get shit done, they're ready to go to Tribal, they're ready to vote out the person that will get their game further, just stuff like that. And I feel overall, I don't know, just because maybe we're young, but I'm more inclined to like the Millennials over the Gen X. I feel on the Gen X tribe, I'm really only interested in Ken and David and maybe Jessica. But I feel I feel more connected and more wanting to watch the Millennials.
Ken and Dave, I ship it so hard. Yeah, I feel the Millennials are more interesting to watch, partly because they don't mind being seen as dramatic. I feel if you told some of the Gen Xers, oh, you're being dramatic right now, that would be the worst insult you could ever tell them. But then, yeah.
Yeah, and so also in this beginning introduction part, Lucy gets her first confessional, which was oh dang, because this was her first confessional in the first 4 episodes, and this was also the episode she got voted out on, which I thought was really interesting, how producers wanted to keep her on the DL and then she goes home this time. I don't know, it's sort of weird.
I thought it was really obvious that she was going to be voted out when she started getting confessionals, because it's oh, here's this person we barely only mentioned for the past 3 episodes. Now she's going to talk to you. Gee, I wonder why. I feel Survivor's getting more predictable like if you just listen to what's happening, it's easier to tell who's not going to get voted out and stuff. So
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's also because we're like super hardcore. We we like see more of these smaller details. Like the casual fans won't be like, oh, you know, this one hasn't talked, and like, oh wow, she's getting screen time. I think she's gonna go home this episode. And I don't know, it's sort of like Monica Padilla getting voted out on Second Chance. How we sort of guessed that she was gonna go home next time because all of a sudden she got screen time, which I don't know, sort of makes the episode less interesting. But this episode was pretty good because of the idol play, and like people have been saying that the producers tend to like under edit people that do get voted out with idols, like because of idols.
I feel like that's true just because a lot of people won't see it as like a fair vote out just because an idol isn't exact, you could say, but I don't know.
Yeah, so speaking of idols, this time we see Adam go idol hunting, but in the beginning part he doesn't actually find the idol, but it was really cute just to see how he was very like freaking out and being a super duper fan. He was like, oh my god, like I'm searching for the idol.
Adam, like if I ever went on Survivor and I found the idol, everyone would know I found the idol because I would probably just scream. Like I'd scream.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting. Like Zeke and Adam sort of know they're on the bottom, so they've got like they're conscientious of the game. So Adam's looking for the idol, and Zeke, he basically later in one of the like online Survivor on CBS videos, he's like, I saved my ass today by telling the girls like the answer to the puzzle, because I guess they, you know, they both knew if they went to tribal, like one of the two of them might have gone homies.
Yeah, so while Adam was idol hunting, there was another hunt going on for
a goat.
I thought that was just so funny. Like, what are you gonna do with a goat once you catch it? Like, do any of them know how to butcher a goat? I don't think butcher was on any of their job lists. But like, I thought it was just so interesting that the millennials were willing to be like, we saw a goat. Let's see if we can get a goat.
Yeah,
why the hell not?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why millennials are just so much more fun to watch, because even when I was watching, I was like, you know, how would you actually catch and kill a goat? Because it's like such a huge animal. Like, I would just keep it for a pet or something. But I don't know, it just made it. These are the fun little quirky things that make millennials just so cool to watch, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So moving on to the reward challenge, like both of these challenges this episode were just so like fun to watch. They were very like upbeat, I guess, and you know, I just love like these fighting challenges in general. And I thought before this challenge like the Gen X would win, because all of the people on Gen X look like so much more larger than the people on the millennials.
Like, I feel like the millennials, if you were to look at them as like muscle mass, they'd probably be better, because I think some of the Gen Xers not as great. Like, all of the millennials look to me like they're very leanly muscled. If they are muscled at all. Like, Jay is muscular, but he's not like so I feel like the Gen Xers have an advantage just size-wise.
No, yeah, I definitely feel that. I feel like, I don't know, it was interesting because the water was deep looking, and then the waves looked like they were very, like, very strong because of the end scene. So I felt like they could sort of use the waves to, like, push themselves over, like if you jump and then the water moves you. And like with deep water, you like, it wasn't like in Tocantins where they had like, you could stand in the water, but this looked like you actually had to tread water the whole time, which was probably very tiring while you're fighting off like a huge ass dude.
Yeah, and I feel like the way the waves were might have made the a little unfair, maybe, because it looked like I wasn't exactly sure of the setup, but it looked like the waves were definitely benefit than they were benefiting millennials, at least from like what I was seeing.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I feel like we had two very standout people during this reward challenge. Chris definitely, I feel like, shows how strong he is because he held two dudes at one time and, like, let David go and win the point for the team. And also, David was like, I'm afraid of water, which I was like, okay, David, that's funny. But I don't know. I feel like Chris, because he's showing how strong he is and stuff, I don't know. Before, I think he'll be like a pre-merge or like early merge vote out.
Yeah, I feel like the Gen Xers will probably keep him around just because they do need more physically capable people, but then they'll vote him out like right before the merge or something along those lines.
Yeah, and also Michaela takes her swimsuit top off, like, oh dang. And then I feel like this gets her brownie points for like the tribe. And she's just so funny. She was like, we're going to see some tatas today, y'all. I don't know. I feel like it earned her brownie points, but it earns like Chris like a target threat. I don't know. Just the way that the tribes are made with like the old people probably are like, oh, he's a threat in challenges, and like the young people are like, oh, yo, Michaela's so cool.
Yeah, and I feel like it also might be a little bit of a gender thing. It's easier for people to think of the really strong, macho, tough guy, but it's more difficult, I feel like, to think of like the strong, tough girl. So.
Yeah, I feel that. Definitely something to look out for with a tribe swap, I feel like.
Mm.
Yeah, so talking about idols earlier, now we can actually talk about Adam finding the idol. Like, what the heck? Corey and I met a guy who found a freaking idol on Survivor. Like, our Snapchat stories was just about this. It was crazy. We're like, oh my God.
You should ask him if he still has it.
Yo, you can't be giving away like what's happening in the season though.
That's true. Spoilers.
Yeah, so I felt like last episode when it showed like Adam going to Tree Mail and then you could see like the idol shell in the background, it sort of foreshadowed this episode. And you know, when he was looking at that first sequence, like he's got to find it sometime this episode. And I thought it was like a super great moment.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things where if you go on Survivor, that's on your bucket list. Like you want to find an idol. Very happy for Adam, and like he had his whole emotional speech thing about how he was living his dreams while also living his worst nightmare, and I just wanted to hug him.
Yeah, I feel like definitely Adam is a fan favorite. Like, he seems like he's such a relatable dude and he's so cool. And it was really funny. I thought, like, is it harder to break open a shell or like Adam's shell or break open a coconut for David? Like, it seemed pretty difficult this time.
I feel like breaking open a shell is actually easier because they're like more brittle. Like you can't shatter a coconut, but you can shatter a shell.
Yeah, it looks like these guys are struggling.
Maybe it's not just the fact that Dave is incompetent.
Yeah, and speaking of incompetence, Hannah, I don't know, she is just such a freaking goonie. Like, literally, what the hell? She just screams out, like, how's the idol search going? And then she's like, good luck, buddy. I'm like, oh my God, you're literally, this is so, oh my God.
I was kind of just like, oh, Hannah. Like, she's like that dorky little, like, I think of her kind of like a puppy, and I feel like that's kind of because of what Mari said about her at the Millennial Tribal Council, but I feel like she's kind of like a puppy. I hate that.
So, like, annoying?
No, like cute.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I guess it can go either way. It really depends. I don't know. I feel like this tribe swap, it might be well for her, but I see like her going home soon. I don't see her long game unless like people don't think she's a threat because she's very, very like kid-like, I guess.
I feel like people would ignore her as a threat just because she seems very naive, and I feel like people would think they could goat her.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. Just like her whole persona seems very, very like that. Yee. So, immunity challenge, another cool ass challenge. It is something new that Survivor has never seen before. Like they had to do some cool ass obstacles, and then like the people lift the people up to get numbered bags, and then you do a puzzle. Super cool. I thought this was so interesting.
I thought it looked really interesting to be the person who was being lifted up because it reminded me kind of a ski lift seat.
Mm.
It was scary, like trying to reach to grab the tiles, like in that seat. Like I've been on a ski lift before once, and it terrified me. Props to them.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, like the strategy for both of the tribes. So Millennials put like the skinny girls up to like get the puzzle pieces, then they were on the puzzle, and then Gen X put like the big dudes and David up to go and get the pieces. So, I don't know, I guess putting the skinny girls up, it's like easier to lift them, and then I guess the guys, they have longer arms to be able to reach. But I mean, in the end, even though Gen X were like sort of leading the whole time for getting the puzzle pieces, it's still negligible though when the puzzle took 45 minutes. Like a 1 or 2 minute or like 50-second lead isn't going to determine this puzzle and the outcome of the challenge.
Yeah, that's part of the thing with like Survivor puzzles. Like it gets to be so long that it doesn't really matter how well you do in the physical part of the challenge. I felt really bad for them just because that was a pretty long, like, defined. Like, there were a lot of letters. And I feel like you could have, like, found a lot of words that seemed to make sense, but then didn't, so.
Yeah, I know, and it was like a obscure kind of phrase, like somebody loses their flame tonight. I don't know. I feel like for me, that would be such a hard puzzle, and just like standing there for 45 minutes, I feel like you'd be discouraged, and I'd be like, oh, well, what the hell is this answer? You know, because 45 minutes on like a word puzzle that's like 30 letters long, that is a long time, but it's like, I don't know. It's like, it's interesting. And I think it was interesting also how the two tribes differed in their approach to the puzzle. So the Millennials like stood back and counted all the letters, and then the Gen X was trying to like put words down to see what worked.
Yeah. I think that the counting letter strategy is just better because I feel like if I did the Gen X strategy, I'd end up with like 6 5-letter words or something crazy like that. So.
Yeah, I guess you really have to work with like the other words in the puzzle because process of elimination with the letters. So if you only have one G, then you can tell like what works and what doesn't work. But yeah. So Zeke, he saves his ass. You know, I was like, Zeke, yo, he gave the girls like the hint to do somebody instead of like what they had before, and then like they got it. I was like, oh damn.
I mean, I think that that's just smart to do. Like, what was he going to let them fail? So.
Yeah, I mean, like, good for him, like, saving his ass, winning this challenge, and it seems like the Gen X tribe just can't do puzzles. Like, the past 3, they've, like, lost on the puzzle. The challenge they won was throwing rings. There's no puzzle to that. So, I don't know. David's always on the puzzle. Maybe it's his fault.
You see, I feel like that was David's fault. They should know by now not to put him on a puzzle.
Yeah, all 3 times so far. But I mean, you know, maybe it's the other people he's with, but the common denominator seems to show that certain people might not be as good as puzzles as they say they are.
Yeah. But I feel like that also has to be like a thing where the tribe goes, Dave, this time you're not going to do the puzzle. So.
Yeah, maybe next time when the tribe swap, they'll realize and he won't be on the puzzle.
Yeah. But so Millennials win. They do the somebody loses their flame tonight, or is that what it was?
Yeah, I think so.
Something. Anyways, so that means that Gen X is going to tribal council at a hullabaloo.
Yes, I mean, Wow, now we can finally talk about Lucy, the star of this episode. So we see Lucy going to talk with like Ken and David, and then she basically gives them a list of rules, and she's like, don't be paranoid, don't talk to anyone else. Like, I don't know, giving people rules like that, like that's the game. You need to talk to other people. You need to be somewhat paranoid in order to strategize, in order to make sure that you're safe. I
Yeah,
feel
I
like.
feel like trying to get people not to talk to other people is the surest way to like out in Survivor, because it's like, what are you hiding? And it's like you can't be that controlling of other people. Might be having a connection.
Yeah. And so with hearing all of these rules that Lucy had, Ken and David believed that if Jess were to go home like Lucy wants, then Ken, David, and Cece would be on the bottom again. So then Ken goes and tells Jessica about the plan, and then Jessica blabs the whole thing to Lucy, which I'm like, what the heck? I mean, yes, it is suspect for Jessica to have like Ken, who she might not be as tight with as Lucy, to tell her like, oh, these people want to vote you out. But then like I can understand going to fact check the story, but I feel like she could have went about it in a different way, because she basically told Lucy the whole entire thing.
Yeah, I just people on Gen X seem to be very bad at deciding who they should and shouldn't trust.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think that if Jess were to go home, Ken and David and Cece would be actually on the bottom?
I honestly have no idea, just because that tribe seems to flip who's on the top and who's on the bottom pretty easily, is because they do have like less complex tribe dynamics, but like I feel like since they do play more emotionally, it's easier to flip them.
Yeah, see, that's what I was feeling. I'm not really sure if like good for him playing the idol correctly, but David plays the idol frickin' pre-merge before any tribe swaps in your original tribe, and it's like this has only happened when like Heroes versus Villains, Russell plays it for Parvati, and then Tyson goes home. But it seems like, I don't know, now Jessica, she's like, they saved Jessica before a swap, so she better like feel indebted to them and want to work with them now.
Yeah, I feel like it's just, I guess since they assume that the idol is getting away, that changes things a little. Just because, like, if they are confident in their abilities to find the idol again, then that might be better for them, just because they get a boost on their side, and then they also get the chance to get the idol again. So
Yeah, I feel like after this idol play, Jessica 100%, unless she's like a crazy girl, has to work with David, most likely, and Ken, hopefully. But definitely, I feel like if Jessica were to be voted out soon, David ensures he's getting that legacy advantage.
yeah, and I feel like this is also one of those like resume builder things for final tribal council if David does get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it'll be very easy to say, well, what are your big moves? Well, I made one even before the merge happened. And I feel like that's kind of a good thing to have.
Yeah, and I also feel like Jessica sort of sees now that Ken and David weren't lying to her about the whole Lucy thing, and like, because Jessica did vote Cece, because that's what Lucy was telling her everyone else would do, and then Ken votes Jessica, and then I feel like Ken didn't know David was going to play the idol, so Ken votes Jessica to stay in the majority, and to like not piss anyone off, since that's where everyone's going, and like Jessica just sort of backstabbed him, but I feel like it sort of warrants, like, Jessica can't be mad at Ken for voting for her, because it was sort of warranted.
Yeah, like, Yeah, if she's mad at him, I'm sure that Dave will have something to say about that. Just because no one messes with Ken and Dave. They're
Yeah.
my best friends.
But I mean, overall, it was crazy. So Lucy, in the end, actually did have the numbers to pull this vote out off.
She did, but then
Then she gets goofed by an idol, which I mean, yes.
that's why
I
you
don't
split the
know.
votes, my friends.
That
Like,
is
I
true.
feel like in this situation, it actually would have been really easy to split the votes between Jessica and Cece, just because Jessica believed they were voting for Cece. So then it would be like, vote, and then half of your alliance. That way, if Jessica did end up getting an idol, she still couldn't, Lucy still wouldn't go home. But
Yeah, I feel like after first tribal, when they split the votes for like David, or they split the votes between Cece and Rachel, and they showed that David didn't have an idol. I feel like now all the Gen Xers were like, oh, there's no idol in play. David doesn't have it. We don't have to worry about anything. Because even in the other tribals, when they might have like split votes because of an idol, like they haven't.
yeah, so I wonder if that's going to change the future tribal councils. Start considering vote splits more, or
Yeah, so I mean, overall, David does a kick-ass move of playing an idol pre-merge, pre-swap, pre-anything. And I mean, I think just like time will tell what if this is actually a good move or a bad move. But like just thinking about it, I don't know. Like they get Jessica on their side, but with a tribe swap, 2 people out of like 8 isn't a majority, you know.
yeah, so I feel like the tribe swap might end up screwing them over, but we'll see. I feel like
Yeah.
Taylor and Phoebe are going to end up getting split up just because there was way too much foreshadowing in that preview for it not to happen.
Yes, I am hoping they get split up. I like low key, I don't know. I want to see if they can actually play the game or if like their whole entire game is how they've been playing so far when they're together. I want to see if splitting up actually is like good for them, but I mean, I feel like it'll sort of be in like blood versus water since they like each other so much. They'll always like, have to play like if they're playing with another person. Hopefully they're not that far in, but it seems like they are pretty close.
Might also be one of those things where they vote Figgy out because they feel like Taylor might be a threat or vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, I would be A-okay with that. I don't know. I feel like Tribe Swap will help David because David was all like, I'm close with Taylor after the thing that happened last week, the summit. And I feel like it'll also help like Hannah and Adam and Zeke. Hannah, because I feel like Hannah and David could sort of bond since they're both like TV writer, like comedian personality types, and they're sort of like weird and outcasty in general. Then I feel like Adam and Zeke can definitely bond and like make new tribe alliances. Or it could also screw them all over if like they're with all the yip yip go people on Millennials.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see how tribe swaps change things just because there's no real way for us to predict the swapped tribes.
Yeah. Do you think
So,
it's gonna be do you think it's gonna be 2 tribes or 3 tribes?
I don't think they would do 3 at this point.
I don't know, that's what I was thinking, but then it seems like there's only one, like, I don't know, there's a green buff, but that could be the merge buff, but they could do like co-wrong where it's like 4, like split 3, then one person like leaves for exile. But I feel like they only did that to Julia last time because Caleb and everyone got medevaced, which messed up the numbers.
Yeah, so
Yee.
who knows?
Yes, so I'm very interested. I think tribe swaps like flip everything upside down, and it'll be really interesting to see how people's gameplays like change based on the situation. And this is like all part of the game. It is going to be great.
Yes. So we're really excited to get to podcasts for you next week, and we're really excited to see this tribe swap. So leave your comments below what you think's going to happen next week in the tribe swap, and what you want to say to us, because we like reading what you have to say. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yes, thank you so much
Bye.
for watching.